Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's Writers Chat, the place where we talk about all things writing by writers and for writers. We're excited you're with us here either today live or watching the replay. And we are so excited today to present one of our own to talk. My name's Jean Wise. I'm one of the co-hosts here. Normally, we're joined with Johnny Alexander, who's traveling today. And today, we're going to have one of our own, our co-host, Bethany, Jett, talk to us a little bit about some of the new things she's been learning about branding and marketing. And we're excited because that is always a topic writers need to grow and learn more in. So we're excited. So Bethany, I thought just in case we'd have some new people watching the replay or with us today, if you do a little quick intro of yourself. And then I'm curious what got you on this journey to learn more about branding and marketing, and which led us to today's program. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Bethany.
Okay. Well, my name is Bethany Jett, and I am in the Master of Fine Arts program at Southern New Hampshire University. And the degree is communications with a focus on new media and marketing.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm very, very excited. I was excited.
Say that one more time. And the degree will be in communications.
With a focus on new media and marketing.
And new media meaning some of the things we've been talking about the last couple, like Instagram and social media.
Yeah, they even consider, because it's a communications degree, the first few classes have been a lot about old media and new media. So basically all the stuff we're doing online is new, and they would consider traditional media, TV, and print. So, I mean, it's interesting that I was considering new apps to be the new media, but actually what we're doing is new media because the way we communicate is different now.
So we're new.
Very interesting. We are. And having to learn new stuff every day.
That is true. But so something like Zoom, we're in the trend, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, yes. I know you have a lot you want to share with us. You put some resources in the chat, and if you've come in later, we'll try to repeat some of those. If you can't see them, we'll share some of those, and we'll let you go ahead and talk about some of the things. I don't know if you're going to start with branding or marketing, or when you're going to. It looks like you got a good book you're going to refer to us.
Yes, because you had asked about how I got started into the marketing degree. And so it was really the influence of two people, Sally Hogshead, who wrote Fascinate and does the Fascination Advantage. And then also it was Angela Duckworth, I believe is her name, and she wrote a book called Grit. And I found myself when I was reading their books just kind of jealous of what they knew because I was just absorbing all their information. And then I decided I could do it too. And I'd already wanted to go back and get my master's degree, and I was looking at a creative nonfiction degree, but then I thought, I love this so much, I'd rather do this. So that's how I got started, and I got accepted and all that fun stuff. So hi to everybody who just came in too. It's nice to see you. Oh, Jeannie, I think you're muted.
Okay. How long will it take you to get through this degree? When did you start? When do you plan to finish? Just a little bit of background.
I'm still pretty early on, so I'm in my third term, and they're 10 weeks each. So it's a lot of information crammed into a really short amount of time and assignments that are due every week. And I'm probably going to continue the track that I'm on, which is one class term at a time instead of two, just because of all the other things that we have going on. So they said my graduation will be May of 2020.
Okay, so that's still
I'll finish in January.
Yeah,
it's just a couple years.
Yeah, that's still doable. You got to remember, if you don't know Bethany, I think most of you do. She's the mom of 3 boys and owner of multiple businesses and building businesses right now. And so the one class at a time is probably all you can handle.
It's all I can handle.
But share some of your wisdom with us. I'm anxious to hear what you want to share with us today.
All right. So there is a lot of fun stuff in here, and I put, before some of you came on, I put in the chat a long list. So we're going to try to make sure everyone gets all the links that I posted. And then I can also create a PDF that has the links in there as well. So I just pulled some of the more fun aspects of this because learning about all the different communication types and stuff was not fun. I did not enjoy that part of it. But I wanted to start with the last two that I posted, which are personal mission statements. And there's two links to that. What's your personal mission statement? From Forbes, did an article on that. And then the other link is looking in the chat, personal mission statements of 5 famous CEOs and why you should have one too.
And I'm recopying them into the chat, so in case somebody came in later, they can see them. It was the last two?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in one of the classes, we had to create personal brand mission statements. And what has been a benefit for me personally is that we're creating the Serious Writer Academy brand. Michelle and I are doing Platinum Literary as well. And then plus, as a writer, you have your work, but then you also are your own brand too. And so I was able to just kind of utilize some of the things I was already working on instead of having to create like a future job. Yeah. So those of you that are writers as well, or if you have a business, those two links are very, very helpful. And what it does is you can follow their formula, and it forces you to explain why you are your brand and what your purpose is too. Kind of like a purpose statement, but going through the process really made me exclude a lot. I mean, I really thought I was going to include a lot, and really I had to exclude. It really helps you focus on who your target is and what your actual mission behind everything is. And there's a guy named Simon. I think I saw his book right here. Yep. This is another book I recommend. Simon Sinek. And it's called Start With Why.
Start with why.
And Start With Why. And he talks about all the great brands who, even people, like even on the back, it says Martin Luther King, Steve Jobs, Wright brothers. They all have one thing in common, is that they have a strict purpose mission statement that they abide by, but then they can do lots of products in that. And that's kind of like why writers who brand themselves with their why first instead of their what do really well. And the best example of that, I think, is Apple. And people talk about Apple all the time because of just revolutionary design and stuff. But they weren't first to market with computers. They weren't the first ones who had market share. And yet IBM, I think he uses them as an example, or Dell, they don't have, the smartphone or the things. And, Apple didn't create portable music, but yet they created the iPod because their why is quality and excellence and different in design and products that people use. So even though that they're a technology company, they can have all these products and do really well because they always go back to their mission statement instead of saying we're a computer company.
As a writer, we want to focus on the how and the what and the right. So this is really good
Yes.
a centering thing for us to realize.
Yes. And even, especially as a company too, everything has to go into your why, but as exactly, like you can think about your target audience and who you're writing to. If you're writing to teen girls, why? Like if you're a writer of teen girls, that's one thing, but why do you write to them? And if that is the purpose of your message, then you can just branch out from teen girls and do other things beyond that because it all fits within the brand that you've created. So this is a great book. I'll show it again. It's Simon Sinek. He has a TED Talk that has had millions of views. That's where I heard about this, got the book. It's amazing.
Okay.
So
that
was one.
So one of the first things you learned was to clarify your why as a writer, as a communication person. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. I have a list. I'm just going to go down the list.
Go down the list. We're anxious.
Right. So know your mission. And then, like I said, know your target. And so for writers, you have to know who your target audience is. And then we've talked about this before. We call it a bullseye oftentimes at writers' conferences. So when you write your book, it's a very small number of people that you're actually writing it to. And it's counterintuitive because you think, this book is for everybody. Everybody could get something out of this. But that's like the big bullseye target. And you want to go small and then niche out too. And they're talking about that with branding too, your articles and the content that you put online, which is the class that I'm in now, is about web quality content. It's all about knowing your target and appeasing them. And then what was really interesting in one of the classes, and we didn't go too in depth on it, but I latched on, they talked about brands that are exclusive. Like they specifically make you feel exclusive. So I don't want to name them on the record, but they talked about, think about stores in the mall who only cater to a very small size demographic on purpose. they're not saying our clothes are for everybody. They're saying our clothes are for this person who matches this lifestyle. But the thing is, because they are so targeted on that cool niche for what they do, they get their audience, and the bigger audience wants to be like that smaller audience. And so that's how they get that market share across the board. And as authors, I thought we could do the same thing. Like, why not write very specifically to the cool audience that you have, knowing then that your broader audiences are going to come in because they want to be cool like your target. I thought that was an interesting way to think about it.
It's a flip way of thinking about it, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah. It's very unique. Very unique.
Yes.
You know, because all we hear is about list building and build your audience and all this. And so be as specific as possible. Reminds me a little bit of the talk we had several weeks ago, Robert Benson's book, Writing on the Tip of a Pen, where he has his jury of 12 that he writes for, only 12 particular people, and he knows who those 12 are for each of his books. You know, so that's very specific, and that's sort of what you're suggesting.
Yes. And we were at the mall just yesterday or Sunday. It was Sunday night. We went to go pick something up, and I was walking by the stores, and I saw some of the ones that were mentioned in my class, and I thought, you know what, I'm not their target. Like, they don't want me coming in their store because I don't fit their demographic. But then I walked by other stores, and I was telling Justin, I was like, I love that store, I love that store, I love that store, but I'm their target. And so it's just interesting watching, you know, people who are going in and out and who they were catering to. And it's very obvious from their window displays. So that's like our online website. Your website should be that. Like, design your website for you, but also design it then for that target audience for who you want. And people will come to it who aren't in that target audience because they want to be like your target audience.
That's
interesting. And you never think about that second realm wanting to be like that, but we do it. You know, I like certain products because people I think are cool like certain products. So I do it too, you know?
Yeah. So it builds.
Forever 21.
Yeah, Forever 21, Vicky's put in there. Yeah. On the,
I walked by like Hollister and Abercrombie and Fitch. I'm not their target, you know? Gap, however.
Yeah.
I love Gap. That's, you know, and they target to like just that classic look. And you kind of know, like, you know, when you're walking through the mall, which stores you want and who your target is, and you know when you fit right away. But other people will come into. I thought it was cool.
It is cool. What else you got for us?
All right. What are your keywords? So I was trying to make sure I tailored this to writers specifically. And so, Jean, I put some down about you.
Oh, what did you put down about me? Yeah.
So, some of the keywords for you, I have like devotions and journaling. And spirituality, and then like the retreats. So all those words are good keywords for you. And I'm sure that if you were to do a word cloud in your blog, those would be ones that would pop up a lot. They do.
They would. They'd probably be a lot of the topics. Prayer is another one. Be a lot of the topics.
Prayer, yes.
Yeah.
So I think as a brand and as an author, what are your keywords? That helps you get your tagline. Taglines are one of the hardest things to get because it's only a few words that sum up everything that you are. Kind of like we talked about bios and social media. So if you know what your keywords are, then you know what you can blog about and talk about, things that people associate with you. And you can actually ask people too. Like, if you're not sure what your keywords are, it's so much easier to do this with a partner or someone who knows you really well and just say, these are the words I'm thinking. What do you think? What do you think of when you hear Bethany Jett? Like, I'm not sure I want to know. You know, but you need to find someone safe. I can tell you. So those are the things.
And how many keywords for an author do you think? Each of those that are here. So, I mean, because there are some aspects you want multiple keywords, and there's sometimes you only want 6 or 10 very targeted, competitive keywords.
This is coming just from me. So I think, you know, not anything that I learned in school, but I think for an author, if you had 10, I would go max 10. You should be able to categorize everything you're doing in 10 or less, honestly.
Okay.
Like because you can have broad categories, like these broader umbrellas. Kind of like when Jill was talking about content 6 and bonus 7 with Instagram. And
buckets. I call them buckets.
Yes.
Buckets. Mm-hmm. So think of the keywords as your bucket, your content buckets, or your content. What did Jill call them again? 6? She had 6.
She calls it content 6.
Yeah.
And that was hard to do, actually. And so actually, I think 10 might be too many. Because you could probably put some of those things, like prayer, you could put under spiritual discipline. So then you're keyword would be like spiritual disciplines, and then then keywords underneath of that as well.
Yeah. So as part of our branding, take the time to identify those key buckets, key content, keywords is what you're saying.
Yes. And then the next one is, as you're thinking about that, what emotions do you want your brand to convey? What emotions do you want you as a brand to convey? And so I did you as well, Jean. So with your branding and books and everything, the words that came to mind, like emotionally, were like just peacefulness and restfulness and being open, which isn't really an emotion, but being open to hearing God. Those are ways that you make me feel when I read your stuff, when I listen to your podcasts, those kinds of things. And so when you know that, like if Jean was like to go like crazy wild on something, it would be like, whoa, like I either need to really listen or, something's going on. But so everything that has to do with like that emotional peacefulness, because that's what you're bringing with this healthy spirituality, it works. And so that's a way that you can also bridge out into other things. Like, okay, I want to do this thing that isn't a spiritual discipline, but does it relate back to any kind of spirituality? And does it make my audience feel the ways that I want them to feel? And maybe sometimes you want to shock them, and so you do.
Yeah, and that might give you a new idea too, a new content. And with this, and maybe you're going to talk about this, I know I've purposely thought through the colors of my brand.
Yes.
Are you going to come to that? How
that's next.
Okay, then that's a perfect segue then.
It is, because if you know your keywords and you know your emotions, then you can pick your colors.
Okay.
If you know that you have a color that you see, I don't know if that necessarily color should be the first thing, because I love a lot of colors, but they don't fit my brand, or they're too overdone. And there's a lot of really interesting articles. Yes, Tina, color psychology. I was going to say, if you Google that, you will find a ton of information. So, I mean, it is out there, but there's like, it's neurological too. I mean, there are specific colors that make you feel a certain way. And big brands especially, they spend millions of dollars testing out the exact color for things. And it becomes iconic. Yellow cells, I just saw that in the chat. Was it Century 21? I don't want to misquote them, but I think they were one of the first ones. They're the big yellow signs. They were one of the first ones to use that color, I think. And they started selling houses because it was more noticeable than the other ones. So they did something different. They disrupted their industry in that way. Some colors can be, I don't know, copyright's the right word, trademarked, like Tiffany blue. No one can use that color on boxes or bags for gifts.
Wow.
Like, so you can use it if you're not in that industry, but they own it for that. And a Tiffany box when you see it. I mean, so they have created a brand around this color, and that color then represents, expensive and luxuriousness, and that's how they exclusiveness, and they do that through a color, which is crazy. But Tiffany blue, this is the blue box.
And it's interesting then to think about this as a writer. When we first start out, we think about the brand. How often do you think a writer should step back and ask these questions? Look at our buckets, are the emotions, look at our colors. Is it time to freshen up our rebrand? Have you run across anything in your studies about how often that should happen?
Not like in terms of like qualitative or quantitative data, which are two words that I use a lot now.
You're working on your master's.
But there's lots of studies. Actually, what I love about being in the master's program is I have access to the school's library. So all the journal articles I can pull up. So I could look up and probably get some data on that. I think just having done this for several years, I think you're almost always if you're not growing, you're stagnant. And so it doesn't mean rebranding the entire thing, but if you're not getting engagement or you're not reaching that target audience, it could be because of something simple like a color, or you make people feel crazy when you're trying to make them feel calm. You have to think about all those things. But I think you're always trying to get better. I mean, Michael Hyatt, and I wanted to look this up before we got on here because I always forget, it's 3 words. He calls it the minimum something something. And his point was, done is better than nothing. So if, get your website up. Hey, Chris.
Hi, Chris.
Get your website up, even if it's not exactly the way you want it to be, because then it's there, and start delivering the content, and then make a beautiful header, then start adding your colors, and you can always be improving on that. And so I don't know if that ever ends, but once you kind of have your, like for Serious Writer Academy, it's black and gold with hints of red. I mean, that's just what it is. It's black and white. It's got that classic kind of look. I don't think we will rebrand any of the colors, but what we can do is then do different marketing things with different feels to them, as long as it hits those notes of what our core thing is. So I would keep your core and then branch out. Yeah, I'm see, that's classic is sort of my, for just personally, like I said, Gap and Taylor Loft or whatever, and Lofts and all those stores, like that's where I fit. So I mean, that definitely has an influence on the Academy.
It was interesting when we were traveling in September, when I was not on Writers Chat for a couple of weeks. We were in a restaurant. They were doing a promotional. They all had the same color T-shirts, and I asked if I could buy the T-shirt because the colors appealed to me so much, and that's what made me very conscious of colors. And I thought, I wonder if I should move my colors a little bit more, or add it. It had a little bit more black to it than what I normally have, but I just made the other colors pop more. Well, they weren't selling the T-shirts, but I made note of it. I know what colors to go back to. But, I think if as a writer, we're always looking for ideas, we should watch the branding, of, like you said, when you go to the mall or when you see ads or something that somehow resonates with you, make note of that, because that's a learning time on that way. Tina asked about subtle changes or overhaul. Where do you, I guess you just got to analyze that, don't you?
Yeah, I do. And you don't ever want to be behind the curve. I want to be real careful what I say about this. A lot of things in the industry are behind and not current. And so one way that you can be very irrelevant to your audience is to not be keeping up. Like, you don't necessarily have to be the first adopter on stuff, but especially as, we want to be writing on, we talk so much about how we spend half of our time marketing, half of our time writing, but it's a noisy world, which is something else we talked about very first day of class, was noise. And you are competing, especially because this is most of this, like, Christian people, Christian and clean, but you're competing with everybody. If you write for women, you are competing in the Christian market, you're competing in the secular market. And if anyone does something better than you, then they win. And that's how they get their readers, and your message doesn't get heard. And so you have to take it seriously, and you have to invest in certain things like your website. And then, but it doesn't have to be super expensive. It doesn't have to be like, some of these websites are amazing. But if you need an overhaul, do it. Ask your readers, ask people who are close to you to come in. Like, we had to do that with the Academy too. We had a couple people say, I don't get this. So we made changes. Like, you need to be able to listen to your audience and not be afraid of the answers, because it'll just make you better. And then subtle changes are always good. You should always be improving. I mean, I changed my header, I think, every few months. Nobody cares. And that's the thing. Like, none of my readers cared. They're like, oh, that looks so good, if they noticed it. Otherwise, they didn't. I don't think you have to make a big announcement unless your site's down and you have 1 million viewers, every month. Just do it and change it and see what happens and what resonates with people. You're
talking about your header on your website, or header on your Facebook page, or all of it?
All of it.
Okay.
My tagline changed. It wasn't until, like, your keywords, mine are live brilliant. Took a long time to get there. That's what it is now. It may not be that in 2 years. I don't know. But the thing is, I knew, here's how I knew. I knew that hit when people said to me, you're the brilliant girl. And I'm like, okay, yep, you got it. They don't know me. They just know that they see that everywhere. And so I thought, okay, that's a winner. And so when that kind of comes back in your world, whatever it is, it works. And I'm thinking about color too. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you're giving us permission as writers to make this a process, to evolve it, let it kind of start someplace, and then feel free to, I like maybe Tina's put in there subtle tweets annually and overall when the numbers slip,
I think so. And if you hate it, I mean, if you're growing as a person and a writer, your brand is going to change a little bit. It doesn't have to but I think you'll hit a sweet spot, and then you really don't have to make many more changes after that. I think when that is. I think about Sheila Ray Gregoire. I hope I said her name right. She does To Love, Honor, and Vacuum. It's a huge site. It's all about marriage and relationships and sex and all those things. She has hit her sweet spot. She has a very broad overview that she can put all her keywords under. I don't know that, she may change it soon, but she doesn't really need to. Like, she's hit her sweet spot. I think once you hit that place,
It's a great tagline. It's a great tagline.
It's a great tagline.
It's a great tagline on that way. Lisa asked, before we let you go on to the next thing on your list, Lisa asked about if you recommended a specific number of people for her small target audience.
I want to make sure I'm answering the question correctly. I like what we're talking about Robert Benson when he writes his books. He has a jury of 12 people that he specifically is writing that to. When I wrote the Cinderella Rule, I was writing it to my high school girls who were leaving for college. There were maybe 10 of them. I specifically wrote it for 3 of them. Oh, I thought about those 3, and each one in different chapters. It went that small for me, and it really didn't matter at that point. For each chapter that I wrote to that girl, it didn't matter who else read it. Like, it was for them. They don't know that. They don't even know who they are. but that's a personal thing. I think that changes, depending on what book you're writing and stuff. But I liked that jury of 12. He said his agents on there, I don't know, would his parents be proud of this? Who would be proud of his book, and who does he want to like it? So I hope that helped. Yeah. So that is a great question. So I was glad Lisa asked that so we get specific. Well, what else do you have on your list there for us, Bethany? All right. Don't be afraid to be sassy. That's a Boss Babe thing that they do. If you've been on Instagram, you have seen probably the Boss Babe quotes. They have brilliant branding. They have a specific pink that they use in a lot of their things. Same kind of images in the back, and then lots of sassy quotes. So actually their hashtag is used all over. I mean, it's just one of the ones if you're doing like any kind of female empowerment or business, you'll see a Boss Babe tag in there, and they do different, they do like a free week of branding email course or whatever. So of course, I signed up for that. And I love that though. They give permission too to be sassy. And they discuss different brands and different people. And the point wasn't to shock people. The point isn't to have bad language or anything like that. The point is, if you know what you believe, don't be afraid to say it, and don't be afraid to be a little sassy because people like it. And if you notice if you go through Instagram and you're looking at different quotes that people have on there, the ones that get a lot of engagement are the ones where someone has a little bit of an attitude. I think I posted one, which is a little bit out of my comfort zone, but it was something about, I think it was that an apple a day keeps everyone away if you throw it at them. Like, it's just funny. It's a little sassy. I had so much engagement on that. I mean, I had more engagement on that photo than I did like most of I was like, it resonates with people because they get it, things like that. So don't be afraid to be a little like how you are at home with your kids and your family. That's the real stuff. Show that. People like it, and that's the sass. Whatever your sass level is, do it. Add a little sass. What was that class you mentioned? Was it from this Boss Babe? Yeah, they had like an academy or something, and they did a free 7-day whatever. So if somebody Googles that or goes to Instagram and puts up Boss Babe, they'll find it. Okay. Oh yeah, their following is so huge. And while we're thinking, I was just thinking, while I'm thinking about this, Bethany, we put in the chat room some of the links that you gave us, and you gave us some links at the beginning too. If we don't get to that, would you put those into our Facebook pages later on today too? Yes. Would you add that? And then that way, if for some reason you've come in late or you're watching this and you missed some of the links that we've mentioned, we'll put them on the Facebook page later today. Yes. Okay. Sounds great. Okay. Back to you, Bethany. I love what Lisa said in the chat. She said her secular writing coach said that she was a contradiction because she said she's sassy. She thought all Christian women were holier than thou. Like, I totally get that. And the thing is, when you watch TV, there's always like the token Christian girl, and that's never me. I never resonate with whoever the spiritual person is on the show, because they're always like so extreme, so be yourself. I mean, here's the thing. Yeah. People like it. I don't think cursing is a good idea. No. I'm always offended by these women who think that, and then specifically women that, who feel like it makes them more empowered to talk like that. And I just think it's trashy. I'll say that. It's trashy. I hate it. It shows the power of humor, I think, when you're saying sass, but it's also humor. There's a real power to humor. And we think sometimes we have to be so serious and like she said, holier than thou. And just the joy of the Lord, to let that come through. Yeah.
on that way. Yeah, I like that. I really like that. So that sounds good. So don't be afraid to be sassy is your next point.
It is. Yes,
Good.
Tina. Profanity reflects a lack of creative vocabulary.
That's very good. Very good.
You don't need to use it.
That's right.
Give was my next one. And we talk about that a lot, is just give value everywhere you go. And a lot of times as writers especially, we're so afraid of someone's going to take my idea, someone's going to take my blog post, someone's going to take my copyright. And sometimes that happens, but it's a small percentage. But here's the winners, especially in terms of business, who are on social media especially, they give everything. They give everything their emails. They give everything on free webinars. They do coaching calls. They do all these things. I have learned so much from some of these people because they have just been generous with their information. And yet, I have spent an exorbitant amount of money buying their courses because I want to know how to do it even more. And so while we think that if we just tease a little and hold stuff back, that's going to draw people in, the exact opposite happens. The more, like Brendan Burchard, who I talk about all the time, Gary Vee, Brian Harris, who does email, Joseph Michael, when he was doing Scrivener in the beginning especially. All these people are doing they're just constantly just giving, teach. And then they have their courses. And I bought every single one of them because I trust them so much. And when things come up, I refer people back. And so as a brand, give everything you have. Like if you're blogging, if you're going to take that material and put it in a book, it's going to be different. You can't write a book out of a blog because it's different tone. You can take the same content and some of the same stories, but you have to switch it around for it to be a book. So don't be afraid to put that stuff out there, and don't be afraid to teach people stuff, and don't be afraid to send people off of your website to someone else's. The more that you can become a resource expert, that is a type of expert, then the better. More people will trust you because you give them good information. So I think give everything you can. You want your website to be nice. You want everything to look good, obviously, for aesthetics, but your content is what really matters. And so if you can just give a lot and be very generous with that, it will come back in a millionfold.
And that holds true also on social media too. When you say that both the sharing other links and the giving away stuff, sharing some knowledge or references or whatever on your let's say on your social media sites.
And it's the easy things. I mean, so whatever your niche is, so if you're a writer, you know that this is what you talk about. But so many times, because we're still learning to write the next book or to do the next things, we are learning in a space where most people who aren't writers. And that's your reader and that's your target. They don't know all the stuff that you know because they don't research it. They just pick up tidbits from people. And so don't be afraid to teach people how to do the easy things, because that's what I search for on YouTube all the time. I don't know about half the programs that I'm using now. I didn't know how to do it. I needed the very basic tutorial of someone to say, I just got this iPad Pro. I'm like, how do I put the pencil in? I don't know. Like, how do I try? I don't know. I was Googling it. I was on YouTube. How do I put in? That's so stupid to somebody who's in the electronic world. Like, everybody knows, but you don't. And so never assume someone doesn't know. If you start teaching that like basic stuff, 2 minutes on YouTube, put it in a blog post, that's where you'll draw your readers from, and they will trust you and love you because you help empower them to be smart about their stuff or their life. And then when you have your book come out and you have built this audience that trusts you, that's when you hit bestseller lists. That's what, Jeff Coynes, Brendan Burchard, Michael Hyatt, all the guys who have these big audiences, it's because when they say, hey, please buy my book on this day because it's coming out, and they're sending it to the list of people who trust them, they'll do it. I do it for people that I love and trust. I'll buy it on that day for them. I'll support them that way. And then algorithms and all these things, and you do that. But it takes time before. Michael Hyatt's another one. He gives so much free content away. He teaches you how to do your WordPress. I mean, I just got this new iPad because of a recommendation from him. I've been wanting one. I mean, I still, to this day, he was the first person I ever followed. And I still trust in he has an affiliate link. I'll click it. I'll give him back some money for that. He doesn't need money or whatever. He's very successful, but it's a way to give back to him just for all the information he's given back to me. So become that person for your people.
Yeah. Tina made a comment about what you offer qualifies you as an expert, because often it's not that we have this huge amount of knowledge, it's that we have something that our reader doesn't quite understand, or maybe how we express it helps them understand their world better too.
Yeah. I've heard you're an expert to someone. An expert only means you know more than someone else in something. Well, all of us are experts in something to someone else. You know, I mean, that's one of my mottos is learn everything you can, teach as you go. And I think I said this, I may have said this on here before, but I didn't want to be 20 years into the industry before I started teaching. Like, I don't know everything. I have a lot to learn, but I do know how to do some things. And so I can write proposals for people. So that's what I started off with when Periscope came out. I just started showing people how to do proposals, and then that led to the Academy. So teach as you go.
Teach as you go. Teaching is one of the best ways to learn too, and stuff. So be generous as a writer was your that point. So what's your next point?
This is one that we talk a lot about a lot in class. It's a two-parter. Be subtle, but use proper disclosure.
What do you mean by that?
Yes. So this week's lesson was probably my favorite. So we had 6 sets of articles. And there were 2 in each column. And one article was a real article, and one article was an ad. And I thought, this is going to be so easy. So the reading in the text was how to discern advertising, because by law, you're supposed to disclose the advertising. But marketers have become very clever at combining story and images so that it looks like you're reading content, but you need to be able to know, any kind of bias, which is something else we talk about a lot. So I thought this was going to be really easy. And the first 2 were super easy. And then the third one was not easy. 4th one was easy. And then the last one, I didn't know. I mean, it probably took me an hour to go through, and I was going back and forth between the advertisements, and there were subtle little things that would trigger those things. So as for marketing, I actually was like, okay, this is cool. These are some good ideas on how to, tell, your marketing story and get people on board. So, for marketing terms, I thought that was great, but you have to use proper disclosure, and there's, you don't want to be cracked down on the FTC by the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, because you're not doing that. And so what I see a lot of people doing in blogs, and this is a personal preference, you have to disclose if you have an affiliate link on there so that your reader knows. I mean, it's not wrong. It always makes me feel shady, though, that I'm saying, hey, I get money if you click on this link, so I don't like it. But I just followed Michael Hyatt's advice, what he does, and used his language that he has available because he gives it to you for free. And, it can be in smaller text. It can be, at the bottom. It does not have to be at the top. And I see a lot of bloggers, I'll go to their site for something, and their very first opening paragraph is their affiliate link disclosure. Well, I'm already out of now what I wanted to read about. I always hate that they do that. Like, put it at the bottom. I don't care, if I'm going to read all down, it's there. It's all it has to be. Like, I don't care that I'm giving you money for that. I'll support you. Click on affiliate links. That's one of my things, too. Like, if someone's got an affiliate link and they told you about a product, click it. Like, it doesn't take anything from you, but don't put it at the top. It doesn't need to be there. Your opening paragraph, as we know, is the hook. I don't want to read anymore. Like, if I'm having to read about the affiliate disclosure. So that's just a writing tip. That's a little pet peeve.
Yeah, right. But
I have.
It's a good reminder to use proper disclosure, is what you're saying when it comes to marketing and branding.
Yes, and you have to do it. So I know we're on, of course, you have to do it. Even on social media, there are specific hashtags that you can use to disclose, like hashtag AD for ad. I like that one the best because it's only 3 characters. You can also put like affiliate marketing. So a lot
that.
Yes. And now on Twitter, when you only have so many characters, that's when you have to do. So most people don't, though. They'll just send out the links with nothing on it. And I mean, at some point, I don't know if they'll ever catch up to everybody, but just it's best practice and it's the law.
Right. And even the affiliate link, like to Amazon and stuff, because a lot of times I review books on my blog and I don't always put that disclosure on. I'll tell you that when I have it clicked to a thing and I need to I have it there some of the time, but not all the time. So I need to put that into more consistent practice.
Yes. And Michael Hyatt has the different disclosures that he uses, and it even contains the statutes. It's like actually 4 or 5 lines of text, which is a lot, but it says, this is why I have this. He uses it in like a not black. It's not black. It's like a gray.
Yeah.
And it's smaller at the bottom, and it's just unobtrusive. So that's what I mean by be subtle. Like, you don't have to be like, hey, everybody, guess what? Like, just give them the information. If you have links in there, fine. Just make sure you have it on there. It doesn't have to be. Some of these companies, though, like, I was like, man, I didn't know that was a sponsored ad at all. And it was very tricky. I don't know. Be careful what you're reading.
Be careful what you're reading. That's probably another good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, on that way. Well, that's a good marketing tip. A good marketing tip to remind. Yes. What's your next point?
Get rid of noise, which we kind of talked about like that. If it doesn't help your brand, if it doesn't help your audience, honestly, you don't need to be talking about it. I just wrote a post, I think it was for the Blue Ridge blog, or maybe it was for the Right Conversation, about how to do social media wrong. And one of my points was, you don't need to talk about everything. Like, if, especially as a writer and the brand, if like politics, for example, I have a lot to say about politics. I have pretty strong stances about politics, especially because my husband's in the military. But Facebook, for me, almost any social media, it's not my brand. I have nothing to do with politics in my brand, hardly at all. And so I just don't talk about it on there. And, I think it's a good rule of thumb sometimes, because that would be noise. It would be noise to my reader, noise to my audience.
Yeah.
Now, conversely, my Facebook personal page, and probably a lot of you are like this too, it's mostly your friends. So you have writer friends and not normal friends, but non-writer friends on there. This is why Facebook groups are good, because if I want to talk about something that's like an entrepreneur thing, my personal Facebook wall is the worst place. It's crickets, nothing. Yeah. I get nothing. I could even give them like anything for free and they still don't do anything. I put it in like a specific targeted Facebook group though, and it goes crazy. And so you have to know your audience that way, but it's just noise on the wall. So you need to know which parts of your brand are noise where. I think
and it's a good thing. Tina had a question back on affiliate links, by the way. It says, if you review a book on your blog and link to Amazon, do you have to disclose that you were given the book?
Yeah, I think you're supposed to.
I think you are too.
And
a lot of times I'll put the line that, I'm part of her book launch team where I was given this book, but in no way was I required to give a positive review.
Yes.
I think something like that, which to makes so people understand if I've said good things about the book, I'm honest about it.
Yes, and that's really important to do on Amazon as well, because they're really cracking down on who is reviewing books. Yes. And so many of the reviews are paid. Like, they give you a discount for that, and people aren't disclosing that. So you don't really know if that's a real product or not, but it might have 600 5-star reviews, and yet it's terrible. So you're supposed to do that. I would, Tina, honestly, I would take the time to just do it and just add that. You can just copy and paste it into the bottom of each of them. Like, she asked, she should go back and fix her old blog post. I would hate for anyone to get in trouble because they didn't have it, and all it takes is one person to say something, and then all of a sudden you've got the FTC looking at you over a $2 thing. Like, I don't know that it would, but I don't know. The thing,
when Amazon clamped down on this a year or two ago, it was mainly for some products, for paid product reviews. It wasn't as much on books. And a lot of authors got really kind of scared about this. Should we review another author's book and stuff like that? And most of the time, Amazon was after certain products. Physical products like a certain sweeper for your house or an electronic equipment. That was really who they were after. But I think it's good practice. It's ethical practice too. So I think we need to remember when we do that to be honest. It's back to being honest with our reader.
Yeah. And too, I think, and I don't have a link to this, but I had read something where if they're probably picking out specific people, like you said, but if like family members, that's actually in their thing. Like, you can't review family members, and then they're, if you're the editor, if I endorse a book and my name is on it anywhere, I don't leave a review on Amazon just because really it doesn't mean anything.
It's good practice. Yeah. On that.
Yeah. And I try to be careful with like my really good friends.
Yeah. Jan has a question over there about publishing things separately on my author page in Facebook. I'm not 100% sure, because most of us have an author page and a personal page. I think that's what she's kind of asking about, separate things.
They're two different audiences. You can check on your analytics inside of your Facebook page. You can see how many of your friends have liked it. I think I'm about half and half. I have a very small number of people on my Facebook author page. I don't use it very much because I'm pretty open on my personal page. But my personal page does not care about links, blogs, articles, business, anything that I love. They care more about I didn't turn the stove on and my, why are my eggs not cooking? I mean, that's the kind of thing that resonates well on my personal page. And then, but my author page is different. And the same probably going to be true for you too. You just need to test and see what's going to work. If you're not getting engagement on posts, put them on your author page and see how they do over there. Consistency on the author page is more important though. Like,
that sounds good.
You have to be consistent out there.
I think so too. Bethany, we got about 5 minutes before we invite people back in. So why don't you look at your list and come up with one or two really kind of fire off a couple really good points for us on that before we invite everybody back in.
All right. You are always the brand. I think if we have to pick one to only 7 align, I'll put these in here. Align yourself with similar brands. That's one. Find companies out there that are already doing what you're doing, or we talk about this with writing too, like what authors and bloggers are always already doing what you're doing and have an audience and get in front of their audience. Find people who are like you. They might be your competition, but so partner with them on something. Like that's the best, especially Instagram. If you can find people to come in with you, like everyone chips in $50, 5 of you, and you give away you could even do $20, give away a Kindle Fire. Everyone has to like all the Instagram things and tag a friend. Those are little giveaways that you can do. You need to follow the rules on that because there's rules, but that's where you can build your following, by partnering with brands that are similar, and that's why they grow their following. So that's one. But I think the big one would be you're always the brand. So, even if you have like To Love, Honor, and Vacuum, that's Sheila's brand. But then again, Sheila is the brand. She's using her tagline as what's going to pull people in. And some people it's going to be your name, some people it's going to be your topic, and you can go back and forth on it. But like, I think we just saw in politics, someone got fired for tweeting something super inappropriate, and then she was a big deal. It doesn't matter if you put on your Twitter bio that, these claims are your own. If you're outside of an ethics or morality clause for your company, they can fire you for what you put on social media. It doesn't save you. And so you have to be careful about what are you willing to defend. Like, I have certain questions I ask myself before I post stuff, especially on Facebook. And one of them is, how much time am I willing to police these comments? And if I don't want to police them, I don't post it.
Wow. We have to be careful in this day and age. That's just it. And it goes back to your brand and your persona that you're communicating there. Hi, Jeremy. On that way. Any other last point before we invite everybody back in for final questions?
Embrace your differences. So I grabbed this book by Sally Hogshead. It's an amazing book, and she talks about what makes your brand impossible to resist, and it's always what makes you different than everybody else. And like, her last name is Hogshead, and she's like, it's wonderful, nobody ever forgets it, and then they know who I am. But she gives lots of different ways for you, like, you figure out what your fascination advantage is, how the world sees you, and then you capitalize on those things. Like she said, when they first started their company, they were in a really bad area of town, and so they couldn't change that. So what they did is they sent out these like yellow warning parking stickers for their clients in the mail and let them know, like, you're going to be in like a little bit of an area. And so like that made them different, but they remembered it, and then they would talk about it with them. So capitalize on the things that you can't control and twist the message on it. Great. So she talks a lot about a lot of those things. It's really good. So this is another book that is great. I recommend. So don't try to fit in. Embrace the difference. Embrace the difference.
Find how you are unique. Yeah. And build on that. I love that. And Tina made a comment that we could do a whole writer's chat on partnership, or a class on partnership and influencer. And so, you know what, Tina, I'm going to put that down. We have a list that the three of us keep as ideas for future shows. And I'm going to let's do one on influencing and partnership in the future and stuff. We've got some ideas between now and the end of the year. And speaking of that, why don't those of you, we've got about 5 minutes left, why don't those of you that want to hop on, come on back in on video or on, you unmute yourself and then come on back in if you want to, and you can ask any questions. We can have a little bit of a discussion here. But I would tell you real quick about next week. I don't see her in the chat room today, but our own Cheryl Lynn will be our guest next week. She was on several weeks ago and talked about some book proposals, and we wanted to spend more time specific on book proposals. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. So we'll have her on, and I'll drop her a quick email to remind her that next week's her time. So we'll have one of our own again next week. And just officially, before we wrap up the recording, too, we'll thank Bethany for sharing this with us today. Yay! Now, while we still are on the recording, before we go to the after show, does anybody here have particular questions that you want to follow up on? Ask Bethany while we have her captured. Nancy, what do you want to ask her?
Yes, when you were talking about the keywords for your website, I thought that was really, important, and I need to go back and focus on that. Would the keywords also in WordPress, would that make, instead of being a tag, or would those be the categories on WordPress?
Yes, that's a really good place to put those categories, actually. Okay. And then you can do different keywords based on whatever's in the article. And actually, I always use my name. I learned this from Edie. I don't know if she never told it to me, but I watched her do it. And so when I do a post for, like a guest post for an article that I can do for someone else that I'm in control of the web, I always put my name in there. And then I've started putting my name even in mine on my blog as a tag, just so that anything that's crawling anywhere, searching, pulls it up. Because you want to be, my goal was always to be, like, take over Google, the first several pages of Google. And if you have a uniquer name, it's easier to do. But I wanted to kick out the other Bethany Jetts. And so I did. So I was everywhere I went. I was like making sure I had my name and everything. Even in the alt text of an image of a graphic that you put on your featured image, I put it in there too. Or if it's on my website, I'll put the title of the class at bethanyjett.com. And then if anyone scrolls over the image, that's what pops up. So I try to get my name in a lot of places.
It's good practice.
Thank you.
Suggestion. Good suggestion. Other questions as we wrap up today? Tina had a question. Tina had a question right there about divergent brands, like my specific. And what if you have divergent brands?
This is like the curse. This is so hard to do. I had a coaching session with Jim Rubart, and some of you probably know him from writers' conferences and things. And that was my big question: is what do I do? I've got things that don't fit with each other. And so his question to me was, if you're on stage in front of 5,000 people, what are you talking about? And I knew what I was talking about if I was on stage in front of 5,000 people. And he said, that's your focus. You can still do all the other stuff, especially if it's like your money and your income, but put it secondary on your site. And so at Bethany Jett, all of the serious writer, Platlit, that'll be secondary on the site. People are going to come there for, Christian living kind of stuff, or business and entrepreneurial practices. So I thought that was a really good question. I always kind of go back to that. Is
good question.
You can have multiple, you should. And like Pinterest is a great place to showcase all of that stuff, because nobody just has one thing, and you don't have to write in one topic, although they tell you to, but you should brand it. You should be known for one and then go out. Kind of like Michelle Medlock Adams, bestseller children's, that'll always be what comes after her name. And she also is a bestseller in, ghostwriting and women's and all these other things that she does too, but she's known for children's. And so figure out what that would be. Find
it. What happens if you're in a stage before 5,000 people? That's a great tip.
Great question, right?
Great question. What? We have time maybe for one more question. Anybody here have a question? I don't see anybody's hand raised. Thank you again. I'm going to finish up the recording here. Thank you for those of you that were here live and those of you that are watching this replay. Bethany, thank you for sharing this, and congratulations on working on your master's. And say that again, master's in communication with an emphasis on?
Yeah, Master of Fine Arts at Southern New Hampshire University, emphasis in communications, marketing, and new media and marketing is the degree.
New media and stuff. And she's included some resources for us in the chat, which she'll also put on the our Facebook pages later on this afternoon. And we'll try to have this replay up in a little bit. We thank everybody for being with us today. Stay tuned for those of you that are here live for the after show. And we'll see you all next week on Writers Chat at 11 o'clock Eastern. Thank you, everybody.